Another one that's going to upset people is, because we can pivot and talk about them if you want, is obviously you put Kazi as your best ADC, right? Guys, you've got to stop thinking about past splits. We don't mean like if you had to draft someone, who would you pick, right? You probably would still pick Hansama over Kazi. But on this split, he's the reason Vitality has any wins, mate. What are we even talking about? Yeah. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, as we're saying, like if Hansama actually played well, maybe G2 would have been top of the league. Like him and Broken Blade basically have to ask themselves some questions of like, why didn't our team win all the games in this exactly. So go on then, give me the Vitality angle, because look, Vitality is obviously quite a flawed team. But I tell you what, there's a reason they've won games and been in a lot of games to win them. So give me your thoughts on this team.
So like, my thing was going in is it's like, okay, so VTO, Photon, and Karzy theoretically could be the best cores of the LEC. They could be better than G2 like once you get them to like team fights. Maybe not in laning. VTO has described it. The problem is like Photon just wasn't that player this split. It was like pretty underwhelming. And the opening of it, like VTO was even struggling to, when given resources, like translate them into actual map wins. But it got better as it went along. Now, outside of the Lucian game where he was like, he had a Xerath on his team, I actually think Karzy in all the other games, and maybe not the gym one, was like giving his team the best chance to win with a categorical A-class inter in his lane. I have never seen Hyli play so bad in my fucking life. He is straight up dogging and losing. And the problem is Vitality's best chance to win any game, right, is sitting right next to him. And Karzy is just stuck in this horror world of like, do I follow Hyli's play and try and get something out of it, or do I just like completely abandon it? And you can kind of see in a lot of the situations he's like torn between them. I do not think you could take any ADC in the league, stick them on Vitality, and like I don't think many of them would have won the games that the Karzy was in. That on-hit Varus game where Karzy started building tank items to sit in the middle of the fight against Team Heretics and just like tank damage and frontline as Varus, it's like a Karzy only like thing. You're like, nobody else is doing that because it is psychotic and it is lunacy, but it's the only way you're going to win that game. And this team just, all the life force of it just got like sucked out with how bad Hyli is. And the thing is that I can be more sympathetic to someone like Douglas on the team, where I don't think he's like good, but supposedly like Douglas is like a more of a dedicated like carry player, and he's like being serviced into the idea of like, you know, he's got to help Vithio with his lane,
right?
Yeah, he's going to help Vithio with his lane. Photon's an aggressive lane pusher, and then bot lane. People didn't realize when Hylisang's like entering these bot lanes, Douglas is then having to move to then cover bot dives and cover like resets so that Karzy can then get back up to the wave and farm, and so he's really stretched. Now his own independent play, you know, it's like skill shot accuracy, his engages, the things that are in his control, they've not been great. I can't say they have. But I'm more sympathetic to the absolute madness that has been Hylisang. And for me, like, this is a team that looks like they should be punching upwards. But I think unless, like, Karzy and V2 will just go X mode, God mode, right? Or SK Gaming, like, have a complete chokeout, there's no way they can beat SK. Like, you're basically, you're creating, like, a theoretical space where, what do you call it, you're just hoping for like both your carries to like pop off. Because when I see like SK even have like their good to mid-level games, it should just wipe the floor with Vitality. Because really that's kind of where it is. Unless Hylisang, you know, for playoffs can, you know, he might be just one of those players that's just done with regular seasons and he can try and bring his floor up like he did in spring. Outside of that, I think they've been really poor.
One thing I would really love to see, because obviously now that we've seen it with Carmine Corp and Excel last year, low-key, I just want to hear all the comms to all the teams. Then I won't have to speculate, I'll know. Because, mate, when I watch this team, I'm not saying this even, like people might think this is like some forced, like fucking, like, xenophobic angle or something mental, mate. But like, I genuinely wonder after watching him play in this and the last Vitality, how well Photon understands English. I'm being serious when I say that. Because, mate, like, this split began kind of like how last year was. He was looking great the first week. It's looking like, oh, he's an Elo hell again, isn't it? Like, he gets the lead in lane, but they don't play to him. And then when they group, he's not with them or they don't play for it. And it's like, yeah, but mate, the problem is now this is different teammates that this is happening with. This is totally different mid laner and jungle. Like, mate, we're swapping up totally totally different players, and you're doing the same thing. And on top of that, now his game's dropped off a bit. Like, as you say, he started out well, but he actually hasn't been that great the last few weeks. So Photon right now, unfortunately, is kind of a waste of time, it feels like. Like, the joke is, he's basically all the insults people used to say about Alfari, except at least Alfari presumably can understand English. Insert jokes about the Welsh. But you know what I mean? Like, at least he actually understands English, obviously. He was obviously just choosing when to group where. Somehow they haven't managed to make the Photon thing work. And that was one of the players, by the way, that I was sort of hoping that, like, the Mac factor would come in and do something with and, you know, sort of be able to, like, integrate him into the squad because it's supposed to be one of his strengths, isn't it? Then you go and look. So already in top lane, basically, it's not that he's like a liability, but you don't have a strength you thought you would have. I'm with you. They could actually, in a real world, the reason why, if anyone wonders, I had this team, like, 4th or something on my, like, pre-season list, it's because I really thought, dude, there's a world where, like, all 3 main laners could be, like, top 3 in their roles. Like, this could be like, the power could be really there on this team. Obviously, I didn't know the Douglas guy, but the real problem is this as well. I put too much faith in fucking Hylissang. Tell you what, I've learned my lesson this time, because I'm with you, mate. That last year, even when he hinted, it's like, you could do that thing where it's like, it's well-intentioned, you know, he was going for something there. He was trying to force the action or keep the players, the tempo, you know, that shit. Bro, this is like that last split in Fnatic. This is like that Nightmare Fuel one where if you were upset, I mean, the joke is fucking Kazi should just reach out to upset immediately and just go like, right, what do I do with it? Is it like sleeping pills? Do I need half a glass of red wine at the end of the night? What is it? You know, how do you get through this shit? Do I need hot stone massage? Because I'm fucking stressed right now. Because as you say, the worst thing is this. Vethio is just Vethio. We know who he is now. The good news is he's an own quantity. Look, I'll give it up to every doubter. I was wrong when he was in Misfits. I did actually think, essentially, that he was a more self-sufficient player than he is. And so I actually don't think he deserves to be called like a true star player, in my opinion. Look, he does have skill, and when you get him to that point in the game on his shot, he can do it. But the point is, see all that, but if like that, I don't have to say that about the other really good mid laners. The best mid laners in Europe especially, they're totally self-sufficient stars. If anything, you play for them because you'd be an idiot not to. That's how you win the game. This guy, you have to play for him just so he'll give you a chance to win the game later. And then lastly, so think about it, I've gone from top there, I've gone from mid. Right, I agree with you. Kazi's actually a banger player, but then an Inter is in his lane. So, like, we don't have any lane we can win through on this team. That's why if you look, the joke is they have been in loads of close games, but you may as well for real flip a coin when it gets to that point for this team, because that's all Hylissang's doing. Like, is he going to fuck this game up, or is he going to allow us to win? Like, he's had a couple of screamers. He's even had one that he won. I forget exact one. I remember there was one that he won where he was playing like shit, but they like sort of won in spite of him. And I'm like, fucking hell, bro. Like, because I'm with you. The real problem as well you've got here is this. As the aforementioned Crownie knows only too well, this isn't the meta to have just the ADC be good and then win the game, mate. Like, we've got to have something elsewhere on the map. So, for me, I have to say, even though they've come into the playoffs looking all right, because it's a bit of a scuffed split, and they've definitely had some quality wins, if you look at some of the teams they've beaten, I don't have a lot of faith either, mate. Like, my assumption immediately is that SK should beat them. Look, SK have their own flaws, which is why you can be a bit worried, like, if you look at the betting odds, for example. But I do think on paper, SK just look way cleaner. There's a logic to how they play, who they play through, who is strong. In Vitality, like, as we're saying, some of the parts are almost fighting each other, which is not a great scenario to be in. And quite frankly, if you're going to do that whole thing of like the coach is going to fix it, then he probably needs more time than the first 3 weeks. You know what I mean? This isn't like he walks in and it's just fixed. He's not a magician, guys. If anything, this is like some full-on fucking Pygmalion project where he's going to have to gradually over time level that up and make them more sophisticated and fit together. So I'm thinking, look, I'll give him this much. Because of how they started now, if they do manage by the end of the season to be really awesome and go to Worlds, then they must have done a great coaching job. They must have fucking killed it, because the team that has right now, look, because we've got people like Carmine Copley, I can't say it's like a bad team, but it's kind of like a bit meh, you know? Because the one thing I'm underwhelmed about the team is, like, where's the sort of punching power? Like, if I have an underdog team, Kieran, I just want a chance to, like, This is why I think SK is the best opposite version. SK shouldn't win the league, but I tell you what, they've got a dark horse chance to. If everything goes great and the right players for it, maybe it could happen. I actually think it's impossible for Vitality to win. I don't think there's a world where they could do it.
But it's like literally like light and darkness. Like SK has got like a mid laner who like can't really like lane very well, but he makes up for it in other ways.
Yep.
They have a stable lane focused like split pushing like carry hybrid player and irrelevant, but he speaks English. They've got a rookie jungler, but he's actually good and Isla. And then their bot lane is Exakick DOS, which is like a pairing bot lane, the same as Karzy Hylissang, where now we're in a world talking about DOS being better and more consistent than Hylissang, right? And Exakick, right, okay, he's the only person who's not better better than his counterpart. But the problem is he's playing from a much better platform, much better dynamics. And the thing is Exoking usually like executes on him. Like he's very safe in that like sense. He usually executes on the lead that he gets. So I've spoken to Mac once or like twice on like shows, right? And the thing I liked about like Mac is he didn't like bullshit me. He actually spoke like about like coherent like team identities and like draft ideas and what things were supposed to be. And you know, I mean, I don't know anything about his coaching, but the idea that like he kind of like knew who he was like drafting for like his players and his team, I think that is like an upside on like what he's got here. I just think the coaching staff have got like a lot of issues to deal with quickly. The only thing I can say like is like good about them is if you get into the whole like, you know, playoff vibes, like playoff like jitters, you know what I mean, if you get to those later team fights where and the game's not completely wrecked, like Vithio and Karze, that is like a place that they can like carry from. But I don't know what like gold leads you're going to be having. Like it really is sad to like for me that like it looks like one of the perennial best pieces in EU is possibly going to go the whole year wasted on like a middling to like upper team. But it's kind of that's kind of basically the way it's looking.
I mean, the problem is that's like a big old LEC problem anyway. Like the thing I hate about the LEC right now is you can look at every team from the bottom up, and every team has like one player that should like be contended for the title, but stuck in Elo hell basically. So you can pick different spots for different teams, obviously. By the way, that's the other thing as well that I do not like about the Vitality team is this. When I was going through all the different possible like players and how they might play, the problem is like the one player I obviously would never have picked for this team is the Douglas guy. They just chose already within Vitality. They were going to bring him in, and they had that idea last year. You know, that was just set in their minds. I don't know if he was cheaper, what it was. I would just say that would be the most obvious position I'd potentially upgrade. Like if I look at their teammate and I think of different junglers I could slot in, I think you could make this team better a lot quicker. I mean, the joke is, even some of the ones that aren't big names, like maybe I would even take like Marcoon or something, like, you know what I mean? Someone like that might even be, I feel like someone who can service the lanes a bit more. That's maybe what I want. Because I'm with you. The vibe I get from the Douglas guy is he's just been told your job is to hold Vethio's hand. And he's like, but that's not how I got here. Like, it's not my game. Like the reason you want me is because I'm like a jungler from the RLs. That's a star or something. So I think they've just missed the trick on that one. They haven't paired the right jungler with them, it seems.
The real meme is they've got self-made in their tier 2 team. Is like, do you want to run it back with a self-made, what's he called, Hillesang? It's been reported to me that he's like not playing like that well. Or it's not like he's like smashing like tier 2 or anything. So it's not like, oh, definitely do this. It's just fun. It would just be like one of those funny things. Like it's like, well, boys, it's like crack open the cold ones or running it back.
No, it's basically like that joke, that fucking Loki meme, isn't it? Like, you must be pretty desperate to come to me, fella. Yeah, no shit. If people don't know, by the way, I shouldn't tease too many of these, because then dickheads do that thing where they just make your life a nightmare and just ask you every day, where's the video? Even though you make like a free video where you take like the opportunity cost of your working life and make a video about some shit. But in the same way as I'm going to do a video about a certain Swedish ADC, and then let's say maybe a certain Czech mid laner, I'll keep going through some of the enigmatic ones. Part of me thinks I should do a self-made one, because first of all, spoiler, the reason I am the way I am about him is I've just heard too many straight fire stories about this twat. But here's the one that I'll tell you for now. I'll drop this little gem for now. Even some of the people who like him, Kira, as in they will defend him, and they think he's, by the way, everyone thinks he's really skilled. He actually does have really, really strong mechanics. Like, I'm not joking. He has like among the best mechanics you'll probably ever see for a jungler. But here's his problem. Even some of the people who like him said to me, he basically is just a solo queue player. Like, he doesn't get the team game. He doesn't understand like adaptive. So the joke, and the problem when he said that was that immediately you just do that thing like LS says, where you flash all the images in the game that you're like, oh, holy shit, they're right. He is just the guy who just carries the game from jungle. That's it. He has his champions. He fights all the time, uses mechanics, and he just wins it. So the real downside is, like, he wouldn't fix this team. You just probably would win a couple of games if you had like a Lilia or something. You know what I mean? Like, he'd have a carry game or two though. But yeah, it is something of a meme. I know what you mean. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.